Streaming now. So I'm just going to do a brief, short live code. We're going to be doing a podcast shortly. There will be some setup time, so I won't be streaming it at first, but then I will switch to a live stream after about 30 minutes. So I'm just going to do a 10-minute coding session before the podcast, since I have some time here. All right. We're not going to do any more ASCII, though. We're just going to give up on that. All right. So where were we on the parsing and error detection? Yeah, we were just going to maybe add a mode to the parser. Call it maybe loose mode, or excuse me, call it like a loose mode or similar. Yeah, so here's the parser. So one of the things I realized that I wanted to do here was just record where the first error happened. And then what I'll do is on the editor side, it'll just have that as a very clear line and column, so that a user knows, like, hey, the parser attempted to parse this and it failed at this specific place. And then I can also assert on that as well, which is good. Here, let me post that I'm doing the live coding here real quick on Discord. Also, you can join us on Discord. I'm going to try to add the link to that in the description here. So we're just going to call this loose mode for now. I don't really like that name. If any of you have a better name, please let me know. I'm in paste mode. Sorry, no paste. It's going to be a Boolean. And we're going to say if set syntax errors do not come as failure. And we're also going to set loose error. And this is going to be a table with, or this is going to be a line. It'll be a string, it'll be the line.column where error occurred. Let's make this a list, int, line, comma, column, where error occurred. Okay. We're gonna do line, column, message, something like that. I might improve that. I think, oh here, the stack and stack last, debug level, line num, cnum, message, stack last, something like that. We'll figure out the exact, how we exactly want to structure this in a second here. And this is going to be where the first error occurred. Okay. So just adding those fields should not cause any tests to fail. Oh, well, that test fails because we haven't fixed it yet, which is fine. So basically what we're doing here is we're running our Peggle test Lua. We're going to add I'm not actually sure that's the name of the path. Let's get the actual name of the path here. Oh, it's called test Peggle. Okay. Let's just copy paste that instead of typing it out manually. That way we're going to run our Peggle test and we're going to run our Lua test, but we're failing in the Lua test. So that looks good. that's just a little hack in our, by the way, there's nothing magical happening here. I literally just read os.getEnvironment tests, and if they are there, I run those first. That's all that's going on here. It's not any kind of special stuff. It's just part of the test script in Civ Lua. Okay, so now that we've done that, I think it's called parser.error. No. Oh no, I'm in the wrong file. Yeah, so this is the function that folks are supposed to call when an error is definitively encountered. So the parser has two kind of, you might call them error handling mechanisms. One is returning a nil, and that's done in like an or statement, where you can have like either a string or a number. You know, finding a number or finding a string there is not an error because you still need to parse for the number. So we try to parse the string. If it can't find a string because there's no quote or anything, then it just returns nil, basically, and it goes on to parse the next thing. So that's not really an error. It's just saying, hey, I didn't find the string here. The other case is an actual error where, hey, I found this string quote, but then I found an end of the file. Or, you know, maybe, in some languages, I found a new line, and I don't expect new lines in strings, things like that. In that case, you'd call this error function. Now, what we're going to do here is if we're calling format.errorf, but what we're going to do is we're going to say if p.loose, then we're not going to actually be throwing an error. We're going to be returning a nil. And we need all colors of this to return the error. Now, if loose is false, then this will actually throw an error, what's called a panic in some languages. And that can only be caught by a protected call, it's called in Lua. We have a function called try, which I prefer. So that can be caught by a try statement in Civ Lua stack, or a p call in Lua stack, a protected call. So if we're p.loose, we're not going to return this error. So I'm actually going to just do this. We're just going to call format, which will format this whole error nice and neat for us. And then if p.loose, then we're going to somehow store it. Else, we're going to throw it. And that's all that was happening before with this errorf. Errorf is just a shorthand version of format and store and throw error. So we're going to separate that out. If p.loose, and then we're going to do if not p.loose error, we're going to store it. p.line, p.column error. Yeah, so that can be there, and then we're just going to return nil, basically. Okay. And that mostly solves this problem. The only thing is we need to return p.error anywhere it's being called. Actually, in this case, both branches are error, so we don't need to return anything in these cases. But in general, we need to return error here. We're going to return p.error. Format.format, I just need to call it, I'm pretty sure. Let's double check that, but live format. Get metadata call. It calls format. that's not true actually. Let's not mess with that. And actually, let's do format to format here. I think format will format a single item, and format to format makes string F like formatting. So I'm glad I actually saw that there. All right, that's all the calls to p.error in Peggle itself. Let's look here. No, that's in there. Let's see if I do it. Don't do it in there. Let's see any uses anywhere. That's Lua. Oh, sorry. Error. Elson. Okay. Elson, I forgot Elson uses it. Let's just fix that. And I think it's about time for us to start the podcast. Experiment, I don't care about. I am using it in CXD. Return in those cases. Return. Wow, I use it a lot in here actually. I'm gonna split this up actually here. Return. Yep, these are all fine. I use it all over the place in here. Okay, I think that's it. Let's make sure. Oh, we want to make sure that all of them pass, and I don't. Peggle test Lua. We're failing at 363. Looks like. All right, we're just gonna comment that out. Okay, that should work. All right. All right. I'm now in the voice chat. Sorry, just setting up for the podcast here. Okay. So in theory, we should have added it there. So what's going to happen is if loose mode is enabled, errors are going to return nil instead of, which will kind of wreak havoc on the parser in some ways. You'll get very unexpected behavior, but we're okay with that. We're doing loose parsing. Okay, I think we're getting set up for the podcast now. So what I'm going to do next time I log on, is just add the start testing this a little bit. This is just kind of like the shortest, simplest path towards this. It's possible this approach won't work. I should mention that as well. This is just like my first attempt to get kind of a looser parser. So, all right, thanks for tuning in. I'm going to stop this stream. I'm going to be starting up the podcast stream in about a half hour. Thanks for tuning in.